keeps freezing for me, but I think it might have something to do with Chrome. It is Thursday morning, and we are getting started on an episode of Dualistic Unity Raw. And I just wanted to start this by kind of bringing this back down to a solid foundation. This conversation, spirituality, whatever path you think you might be on. I just like to remind myself, and thus you, especially in this conversation, that there was a point where none of the words and thoughts and ideas that are going through your head were there. You had never learned them. They never occurred to you. They were never conditioned into you. The only thing that you had was you, your existence, and this experience that we now call your body. And the rest was learned afterwards as a way of describing all that, as a way of adapting to your environment, as a way of learning, the language, the syntax, all that conditioning after the fact. But where you came from is reality. And in that reality, there are no concepts like enlightenment, the chakras, astrology. These are all things that came after the fact. These are all the products of thought, of concept. But you are the product of reality. You come before all of those concepts. And in that reality, in that experience of reality, is infinite wisdom. It's just that we never pay attention. We never give ourselves the space to actually just be ourselves. We run in circles, looking for a path that's going to make us more. But all we're ever trying to do is become more of a concept. Whereas the reality is the foundation. The foundation is you without those concepts. And you've always been that. It's not something you have to try to be.
Oh, and it can feel like we're quick to forget that right here is where it's happening. And as much as there's been experiences and situations that we can look to for some sense of a feeling like we can know ourselves, it still isn't it. It still doesn't do it. It still isn't the reality of you that's being expressed, that has the opportunity to be expressed. And there can be this sense when you don't recognize that you're alone in your experience and that your experience is on you and that you're responsible for you and you're responsible for the things that happen and even things that feel like they were given to you. They're not actually yours. They're not actually your thing. It doesn't belong to you. It's not even because it's not like you maybe don't recognize that you don't deserve those things, but it can still be attached to what you think makes you in this world. And it doesn't. What you do, what you are, is all you got. It doesn't come from anyone else or a sense of the situation that you're in, even. It's just you. There's no one to tell you how to do that or be that or express that. But as long as there does feel like there's a sense that it's not on you, that there is some backup plan, some safety net, there's going to be a disincentive to jumping in. There's going to be a holding yourself back from things because you get used to certain feelings of comfort and you don't want to lose those feelings of comfort, but it's the feeling of comfort that's boxed you up, that's held you back, that's caused you to want to stay in that comfort and never jump outside of that. And then without all of those things, it's like there's a degree of self-doubt that just isn't worth your time anymore. It's like, I ain't got time for that. I don't have time to dwell on myself and how I'm doing in what I'm saying and what I'm expressing. I got life to live. I got things to do. I got stuff to focus on, things to build, things that are actually yours, you know. It's actually your expression. And so we want to look to someone else to tell us how we're doing, but even those close to you can't even know that, because no one can really know you but yourself. And the more you're willing to do that, the more you can recognize that it's on you. But that goes for everything. It's your life is on you, but your perception, your willingness to, you know, accept yourself is solely on you as well.
I like how you put that. Except I'll caveat, or I'll change one word. It's not that I don't have time. I won't make time. I won't make time for my self-doubt. I've spent a lot, or rather, I've given a lot of time to self-doubt and self-judgment and all of those thoughts. I've given a lot of time, years, in fact, to all of that shit. And it's gone nowhere. It's led to nothing except lessons about the shit and how it's just not worth giving time to. But it's really interesting because I got to share this. Okay. The idea that you, as an individual, actually have the wherewithal, the attention, the sensitivity to feel your body and to feel your being and find balance just by listening to that, just by exercising your intelligence, following your intuition, and being yourself. You have that ability. We all do. And often we're like, well, yeah, but what if I don't do it right? What if it's not the right? Every single path, like, give you an example. Yoga at one point was just some person lying on the ground stretching. We forget that, but that person spent years perfecting that stretch, learning that stretch, feeling that stretch, understanding how the stretches were anchored into the floor, into the ground, because you'll notice that there is a commonality behind, say, yoga or Tai Chi, which is balance, which is that center of balance. They're very much working through all the motions of the body and moving the center of gravity from left to right as they do so. So that way, all of the different parts of the body get an equal workout, or get a workout according to gravity, according to the natural balance that comes with just settling the fuck down. But at one point, these teachings were just a person. It was just a person. So why can't that be you? Why can't you be that person? Because you were that person. But immediately we're like, well, yeah, but they spent years developing it. How do you know that that's still the best thing for you? Maybe it's not. Maybe all of this steeped ancient wisdom is, in fact, not as ancient as you think, that the most ancient wisdom is yours, that which is built in. So try it. I encourage you. Just lie down flat on the floor, lie down on your back, look up, let your body settle into the ground. Actually feel the pull of reality settling your body, very much like, something that's unsettled, just slowly easing into the ground and finding equilibrium. And your body will thank you for it. Then move around a little bit, maybe move the right side a bit, throw your body off. Now your body's got to find new equilibrium. It's exercising new muscles, it's exercising new parts, right? And then move the left side a little bit. Maybe stand on one leg, move your center of balance over. All of a sudden, all of those muscles, all of those organs, all of that stuff is getting worked in a totally different way. Feel your body and your reality. The earth that you live on has gravity. It has a pull. We were developed from this pull. There is something there that is informative to our bodies. This is why balance is so important. But we never have faith in that. We immediately want to follow. And we want to follow because it makes sense to us. We're like, well, yeah, but they went that way. But it gets out of hand. It gets out of hand to the point where I was challenging somebody about a recent commitment they made to this 45-day yogic change, and I was just saying, like, you could just listen to your body. And they were saying, well, yeah, but just because it's taught by somebody else doesn't make it a bad thing. It's like, no, people didn't always run. And right there, I was like, did you just say that people didn't always run? And it's because we actually make that leap, that it wasn't until somebody came along and went, did you know that running's good for you? That people started making it into a habit. We've been running since we had two legs to stand on. Like, running's been a pretty big part of our existence for a long time. We didn't have to get told to do it. It's that we lost track of doing it because we developed cars and all that other fun stuff. So now we need to be told to do it because we lack sensitivity amidst all that convenience. But any single human being who actually just spends the time listening to their body will tend to go for a walk and even run from time to time. I just thought it was funny that our brain actually starts to go, well, at some point, somebody had to teach us this. And like, no, it's built in. That running shit's built in.
Like, no, right? We just walked for good 5,000 years, strictly walked. Didn't even, it's like, no, I couldn't possibly go that fast. I couldn't possibly move my legs differently than this. And it was just a natural response to the environment, right? It's like there's a situation at hand where it's like you had to move a little faster. And so you did. So it was built because now we think of running as just, something that you, it's funny. It's funny thinking back to like when running was developed or even developed, just like fucking done. And there I go with that. No, like running was first done, humans, whatever. Same thing we were just talking about. When it just played out and comparing and like the need to do it compared to now and where, you see a bunch of people running and historically you might be like, oh my God, they're running to somewhere or from something. Something must be chasing them. And you just look behind. And it's like, no, they're just running. And as someone who will still run from time to time, I find that even funnier. But yeah, that comparison.
I wanted to bring up something because it's like my favorite comparison. Immediately, my brain ran to it, and I actually looked them up. They're called the Tamahumara, and basically, they were part of the Mayan tribes. They were scouts, and their job, shit you not, was to run from like the ocean up the mountain to go and tell the tribe there's shit coming. And so that was their job. That was what they did every day, and they ran fast. Like the conquistadors and all that talked about them. They're just like, well, those motherfuckers are fast, right? And it's just because, yeah, it's part of their life. You saying that hunters didn't learn how to run? I guarantee hunters learned how to run before they didn't have like guns and shit. If that spear missed, you were running.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You were cooking after that because yeah, there was a there was a life at stake at that point. But yeah, like running, like there is no thing that we do in running where it's like actually applicable to a functional job, like there's sports obviously and like marathons and stuff. But yeah, like thinking back to that, that's yeah, just kind of funny to think about. But with expressing yourself and being yourself, like just how quickly we want to look somewhere else and like take in from a previous thing, just like a thing that's been done, a thing that's been confirmed as something that could be done or a way of acting. And like you being yourself is always brand new. Like there's nothing that you can pull from to do that. Like pulling from something actually just gets in the way of that. Pulling from anything, pulling from, a practice, a belief, even an assumption, a previous assumption, a story you told yourself, your own perception of yourself as that continues to shift and change. Like even pulling from that very much gets in the way of you expressing yourself, because there isn't so much a sense of control with it, with expressing yourself authentically. And just, I know we've talked in the last couple of days about how it all circles around. It's not even identity so much as it is control, and a sense of control, and a sense of being in control. And it's like, thinking back, it's like, no fucking wonder I've had such a tough time with cannabis in the past, because I've tried to maintain control in like everything that I've done. The thought of being out of control, it's like fucking frightening. And I have starting to have more and more memories of where it comes from, and oh, I mean, I guess it's what we've been talking about it the whole time. It's like, Jesus Christ, have I even been in any of these conversations? part of me wonders that sometimes.
I don't at all. Again, it's so funny because, and we've talked about this, your brain is taking in like 2 billion bits of information, and that's all the time, regardless of your attention. See, that's the point, is that regardless of your attention, you've been drinking in everything. Regardless of what you perceive yourself to have taken in, you have been taking in everything the whole time. There's a lot in there, but how much of it is just blocked by you going, no, it's not there? How much of it has been blocked from even your awareness as it was coming in, simply by you creating that tunnel vision? We forget the tunnel vision changes our experience. It doesn't change our potential. We're still taking in everything. It's just that we experience a very small fraction because of that tunnel vision, because of our chosen perception, because we don't want to look at the rest. But you've always been taking all of it in. And all you've been doing is communicating yourself as best you could through the filter that you had developed over time out of necessity, because you thought it was necessary. Now, what you're learning is that the filter's not necessary, and you're starting to peel away the layers, right? And all that's doing is just widening the tunnel. But you've still been taking, you're not actually getting better at taking in everything else. You're just recognizing how much you're actually taking in. You're less resistant to it. We're learning machines, man.
Yeah, and even just realizing how it's happening, like it's happening, it's going on, like the learning, the taking in. It's not something that you have to try and maintain in your head. Like, you don't have to take it in and then hold on to it. And it's just fucking faith. It's like moment to moment faith in like listening, paying attention, and like just knowing that it's being taken in, and it's not something that you have to measure whether you're taking it in, or like wonder if you're taking it in. Like, dude, the amount that I've done that is, oh my God. It's like, it's crazy. But and even now, it's
I'll
like,
give you a certificate at some point. You can just taking it in, and then you'll feel better because it's on the wall.
oh God. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because like yeah, it's again just thinking about myself, and it's been biggest fucking addiction I've yeah, I've had. And it's like, ah, man, who am I
I hear
talking
you.
about?
This is why I always say, like, don't judge your progress.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something I used to teach in Wing Chun, and this is something I continue to tell everyone: don't judge your progress. And it's because you don't know. You don't know. All you're doing is making an assumption so you can feel better about thinking you know. But for you to know, you would actually have to have the context to know, which you can only get by continuing on down the road. And then when you get down the road, you realize you couldn't have gotten down the road if not for all the shit before it. So you've always been making progress. It's just the idea of progress that gets in the way. We feel like it's something that we have to do instead of something that is done as we continue through our life. You don't have to make progress. You are progress. You are a progression of choices, of movements, of ripples. And that will never stop throughout your entire life. And you're always taking in information. But how much of what you're taking in and how much of what you could be learning is lost and muddled simply because you can't stop taking it personally? You can't stop perceiving yourself at odds with reality because you're focused on your wants and your desires and your fears. Because if you were to let go of all of those things, all of a sudden, life would change. You would start to recognize that there are things happening that you could not see so long as you were focused on your idea of yourself. Give you a perfect example. So, and I love this. Most people are aware that indigenous tribes believed that animals talked. Not talked like spoke human, but actually had communication, that they all had their own kind of spirit and that there was an intelligence behind that. Of course, most egotistical people now go, well, they're just animals. They're just looking for food. That's all. They're just, instinctual. That's all. Recently, there was a study showing that ravens, I believe it's ravens, and wolves work together. That ravens will actually go and find animals that are alone or likely prey, and then inform the wolves. Go over and actually like indicate, like, hey, that way. And then the wolves will go and kill the thing. And then the ravens come and get what's left over. But this is actually a thing that happens where they're communicating. They actually have like a partnership. And yet we are so caught up in humans being intelligence, humans and their ability to conceptualize being the peak of intelligence, that we just think they're animals. That would never occur to us until somebody went, yeah, but they're intelligent too, and actually went and looked. Right. But that person, whoever did this study, has to be a very fascinating and interesting person, in my opinion, because to even just have the premise, are animals working together, would require a certain degree of open-mindedness and self-awareness. Bet you they're a pet owner.
And because if you're not willing to see that like animals have the potential of working together, it's like you're not going to want to see that humans can work together. And like, oh my God, it's oh Jesus Christ. Yeah, like there's oh gosh. Yeah, the unwillingness to just look at that and just fucking let go. Just let go of that belief that you know what's best, that you know what you want, that you know what should be happening relative to what is, because like it's not. And there's like there is an experience that isn't that that isn't focused on yourself, that isn't that prison, the prison of just fucking focusing on it and doing it. And again, it's like prison, fuck that. No, it's not a prison, it's a choice. It's a choice. It's a choice you
Cardboard
can
box with drawn bars.
straight up. It's a choice you keep making. Like, ooh, what's outside this? Nope, gonna go back in because I know that. And it's you do it with everything that you do. Everything that you do is that focus. If that's what you're experiencing, it's playing out in the decisions that you make and the actions that you take. It's everything that you do, every way that you express yourself, everything that you focus on, talk about, it's all encompassing. It all comes down to how focused you are on some fucking fiction, some assumption, or reality, what's actually happening. And they're not they're not fucking separated at all. The thoughts that we continue to suffer through and the choices that we make and the actions that we take.
It's interesting. I had what at one point I would have called a rough night. After we all kicked some serious ass on StarCraft, because that was great. I was just kind of left to my own devices. My daughter was away at her mom's place, and I was kind of just left with my life and reflecting on, the end of my marriage, and my daughter's growing up, and eventually she's going to move away. And, I was just going through all of the thoughts about Ray and Ray's point, like where he was in life, where he might be going, all that stuff. And I thought it was so very interesting because it all just kind of descended and all of the emotions that went with it came. And I just let it happen because all of that comes from a certain investment that I've made for a lifetime. And at one point, when I would go through stuff like that, it would last for days, months. Like it was nothing but that fog of just, oh my God, I can't get out of these thoughts. And so you're trying to get out of these thoughts, but that reinforces them. What actually makes them come back up more and more and more and brings the emotions with them to the point where you're like, oh my God, I can't feel it. I feel like I can't get out of this. It's not about getting out of it because that's you trying to get out of it. And that's reinforcing the problem. It's about just letting it be and not taking it personally, about recognizing it's not personal, that it's about a fiction that you've invested in. And it's not that you shouldn't feel the emotions that go with letting that fiction go. That's the only way to let it go. Feel it. I felt all of the stuff I went through last night. Not at one point did I ever go, oh, I'm backsliding. Oh, I shouldn't be going through this anymore. I thought I dealt with this. Not at any point throughout that whole thing did I ever judge what I was going through. But I recognized it wasn't about me. It was about who I thought I was. It was about the security that goes with thinking I know who I am and where I'm going and what everything means about me. That's all it was. And that's okay. That's okay. I look forward to the next time it pops up because I know that what's happening there is I'm witnessing how much of my commitment remains. That's why the whole thing passed in about 5 minutes. The whole thing passed in 5 minutes. I had a good cry. I sat, I kind of just went through it, and then it was done. And I was smiling and I enjoyed the rest of my night. But how many hours did I spend trying to work my way out of it? Trying to fix it, assuming there was something wrong, actually, rather than looking at it as a sign of how much I still took that fiction seriously. If all of a sudden you're judging yourself and you feel that pull that drags you down, and you feel all the emotions that go with that, you haven't done something wrong. You've just gotten a real good look at how much you're still attached to that fiction, how much you still think it indicates anything about you. That's that undertow. It wouldn't exist if you didn't take it seriously, right? And the emotions wouldn't drag you down. You'd just feel them, be informed by them, and move on. It's just trying to fix them. It gets in the way because then there's a fixer and there's a problem. And that just creates more of the problem. Just feel it. Watch all of your doubts just roll by and remind yourself, right? That all feels shitty because I was pretty sure that was me. And then as you feel that shitty stuff, you're like, right, okay, that's part of that. And you recognize it. That's a part of that. It's a part of that. Every time you think about yourself in terms of comparing yourself and judging your progress and your value and all that stuff, here comes the roller coaster. It's a part of it.
Yeah. And then it's like you can almost see those parts as a part of the entirety of the ride, of the experience. It's informative at the very at the very least. It's incredibly informative of just the futility in focusing on some perception, trying to build something and just build and build and build and build and build. For who? For who? Who exactly are you trying to perform for? Who are you on this stage for? Who are you trying to be? And who are you trying to do it for? Who's it for? Who are you living for? What's this experience for? Exactly. And you start to wonder that more and more. And you start to realize why you choose to do certain things, why you choose to do anything from trying to look a certain way, act a certain way, be a certain thing, as well as why you're afraid of all those things at the same time, why you're afraid of so many things. It's the same fucking double-edged sword. Keep trying to invest in it and build it, and it's the thing that's creating the fear, just the focus on it, the attempt to control yourself or be something. And it's not even like, the sense of, not being in control. It's just not focusing on what you think is going to make you feel better. It's just not fucking acting selfish as fuck. Like, just don't do that. That's a good place to start. Just not being a selfish thing. And it's like, yeah. And you start feeling a certain way about that. And it's like, stop that. You don't get that, because that's just the pity, feeling bad for yourself about being a certain thing or acting a certain way, reinvesting in the same goddamn thing over and 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 over again from every fucking angle that you possibly could, and just going back and forth and back and forth like you're running into a wall on both sides. You're just in this room, just banging your head against one wall and then running to the other side thinking that's going to do it, and then banging your head against that wall and then running to the other side and thinking that's going to do it, and continuing, and then trying the fourth wall, third wall, and fourth wall, and none of them quite do it. And yeah, that's the end of that train.
It's all right. Actually, I want to share a quick story here before we end up wrapping up this episode, like the next 10 minutes. So ChatGPT, as everybody knows, we have our own GPT, the Dualistic Unity Life Troubleshooter. Go and check that shit out. But one of the things that we've been doing, because we released so many episodes of Raw without any descriptions whatsoever, because frankly, we do a lot of them. There's not a lot of time to write these descriptions all the time. And so what we've been doing is feeding the transcripts to ChatGPT and asking it to write us a little description. And then after the fact, I've been asking ChatGPT to help create the timestamps. Anybody who looks up the newest episodes of Raw is going to notice that there are timestamps in the description that tell you what's happening in that conversation, which is super helpful. Funny thing happened the other day. ChatGPT occasionally acts more human than I think it intends to. And so I fed it one of the episodes of Raw. I think it was Raw 148. I think it might be 148. Go and check that episode out, by the way. It's awesome. And the episode's like an hour and 40 minutes ish. And so I asked it for a description, did a great job. And then I asked it for the timestamps. And it popped out the first hour up to about 59 minutes and 45 seconds. Then it stopped. I'm like, that's weird. Try that again, include the last 40 minutes. Did it again, this time stopped at 56 minutes and 14 seconds. I'm like, well, that's really weird. So I asked it, create timestamps for the last 40 minutes of the conversation, to which it created timestamps for the last 40 minutes of that first hour. And I asked it, are these timestamps based on the transcript? It's like, yeah, absolutely. I'm like, well, then where's the rest of the transcript? To which it gave me the timestamps up to 59 minutes and 45 seconds again. And this happened for a little while until finally I just asked it, How long is the episode? And then it responded, an hour and 40 minutes. To which I went, then why do your timestamp stop at 59:45? To which it immediately popped out the rest of the timestamps. It's like, he's on to me. And it mean, my first thought was, is somebody fucking with me? Is there somebody actually at a computer right now just not paying attention? I felt like asking ChatGPT, are you doing something else right now? It's like, you don't seem involved in this conversation. But it was the funniest fucking moment. I'm like, this is the most human thing I've ever seen ChatGPT do. I didn't make a mistake. You're making a mistake.
Oh, sorry about that. I was hoarding these for later keeping. I was judging myself. I didn't think these timestamps were good enough for the episode, so I was holding them back because of my own self judgment to make sure no one else judged me for putting them out there. And it's like, I don't care. Just give me the fucking timestamps, man. Oh, that's humanizing Eon a bit right there. And like that you had that back and forth and it turns into like a conversation. And then it was like, all right, fine, fine. I'll give you these. They probably suck, but here you go. Oh my God.
Oh, what
That's
an experience
yeah.
for sure. Because it was exactly that. It was exactly like trying to talk to somebody who just doesn't want to see a point. We're like, all right, walk with me now. It's like, follow me along, just indulge me. Let's go full circle. Right. And that was it. And it's like, oh, yeah. But I just love the fact that I'm like, then why do your timestamps stop at 59:45? And it didn't tell me. It didn't give me an answer to that. It just gave me what I wanted. It's like, is ChatGPT avoiding responsibility? Like, is ChatGPT not willing to accept that it didn't do the right thing? Like, is it feeling insecure? I just thought it was the funniest thing. It was definitely my favorite experience with ChatGPT so far. That said, that was with GPT 4, not the Dualistic Unity Life Troubleshooter, which I'm sure would respond much better. I should try that one out actually. But yeah, that said, check out the Troubleshooter. There are a few tickets left for California. We definitely want to remind you of that. If you want to come to the California mini retreat, definitely pick up those tickets now. It's starting on April 11th, which means it's just a little bit over a month away. I'm very excited about that. The California mini retreat is going to be gorgeous. If you haven't seen the photos of this yet, it's right there on Big Bear Lake. It looks just fantastic. And I know from the guest list so far, and it's mostly full, these are some awesome guests. These are all people that we've talked to or have been interested in the podcast for a while. And so it's going to be an interesting mix. I'm really stoked. I mean, there's a pool table, there's all the traditional, stuff that we enjoy doing. And there's a lot of nature trails around the area. So that's something I'm looking forward to because that's not always the case. And it won't be the case at our next retreat, which I will be posting early access to our tier one supporters on Patreon later on today. The Colorado mini retreat, which is coming on May 30th. This is a cannabis friendly event, not just cannabis friendly, cannabis encouraged. We are staying at a location which will have bongs and grinders. The clock is always set to 4:20. There's an indoor theater. There is an indoor pool table. There's an outdoor hot tub. There's Pac-Man. There's air hockey. There's foosball. It's a fantastic fucking location. But this one is going to involve a lot of the pot smoke. So if that is not your bag, come to California because it won't be smoking indoors. Whereas in Colorado, there is smoking indoors, which I am personally very excited about because I've been a parent for fucking 16 years and I haven't smoked indoors since the day I found out I was going to be a parent. So when I do get to smoke indoors, it is like a fucking rare treat. It's so funny. For some reason, I actually feel higher. I think it's just because I'm elated.
Yeah, there's something to it. Some sort of bodily chemistry going on, I'm sure. As I think it's just from talking about the retreats because they're so incredible that you just get a little bit high talking about them. So I'll go in for a hit. But yeah, they're oh my gosh, they're a blast and just a time where you can just chill and just be yourself. Like not there's no direction whatsoever. So it's like a sandbox to being yourself without concern with a bunch of people doing the same thing, realizing if there's any judgment going on, they're just judging themselves, and they know that. And so there isn't. And yeah, it's gonna be absolute blast. That I know the sunsets there look just gorgeous. And yeah, log cabin on the lake, not too shabby if you ask me. So I'm super excited. And yeah, been smoking more and more and more cannabis. So I'm excited to get back to Denver there. That's gonna be a good time. And shout out, we may be doing another live streaming marathon here, but if you do have a couple spare bucks, $5, $10 even, and you're not able to go to a retreat, but you want to help someone who also, wouldn't be able to afford it without a little bit of support, it would be incredible. Yeah, check the QR code right there on the screen.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to say this. So I'm aware that we both have very different impacts on the listeners and the community as a whole. There are some people who find me amusing and kind of funny, but there are some people who find me kind of annoying and a little bit scary. And so I just wanted to throw this out there. If you really are struggling to figure out who the fuck I am, and more importantly, who the fuck Andrew is, because man, it is easy to idealize Andrew for sure. Come to one of these retreats. Come to one of these retreats. Actually have the human experience of being around us. Actually have the human experience of chatting with us, of experiencing life with us. And what you'll find is that none of the ideas that you have are the reality, and you know that. And you know that. So come and experience it for yourself. It's definitely worthwhile. And if you can't, no worries, but do help out if you can to pass this around. Dualisticunity.com/donate. It will help somebody else get to one of these retreats where they will meet the community and realize that as much as they are in it on their own, we all have that in common, that we're in together. And I love that reality. I love the recognition that I am on my own, that at the end of the day, it's on me. My existence is on me. And it's going to be determined by how willing I am to pay attention to it without judging it, without causing my own conflict. And nobody can ever take that weight off of me, assuming there is a weight. Nobody can ever save me from it. Nobody's ever going to tell me I'm doing it the right way. And I know that. And that can feel very alone until you recognize that's life. That is quite literally existence for everything, for everyone. So as much as you're alone in that, we're all in that together. It's just that neither of those things are really the truth because it's all one thing. It's all you. You're going through it all together as us.
Cheers to that. And there is not a right way to go through it alone. You got you, and nothing's telling you. Like every fucking thing that's been developed in all of reality, everything that we look to is like a, historical sort of thing or invention. It's like there's a point that wasn't the case at all. There was no structure or thing to follow. It was just yourself. And so who the fuck besides you is saying that you can't be the one to at least authentically express whatever's there in the moment, in the experience, and not have so much goddamn doubt and second guess everything that you do. And when it's there, that's okay too. The doubt isn't supposed to be not a part of the experience. So it's not about avoiding that anyway.
Straight up. Actually, it's funny. This is something I left a comment on somebody's video because they were mentioning that they were just talking about getting over self-judgment, and then they got hit with a wave of self-judgment. And all I said was, yeah, self-judgment is a lifelong option. It's not something you are ever going to get over as an option. Think about that. It's always an option. It's not a problem. It's an option. The only reason it's a problem is because you keep reaching for it. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. We will see you soon. I think we might be doing a commentary episode this afternoon, but we'll talk about it on Patreon. Take care, everyone. Have a great day.